Hi! Welcome to another video. My name is Zizaran, and today we are going to be covering maps. So the Atlas, mapping tips, and stuff like that. This isn't going to be like super advanced, and I don't plan to go super deep into why not to do maps, because for most people at the moment, you can probably, with a good conscience for a good change, like do all the maps. There were a few different atlases in Path of Exile and a few different times where there was a large value in waiting with completing maps or never completing maps. Right now, that's not necessarily the case. It does give an advantage, but it's kind of complicated and not worth for a large amount of people. So that's not what we're going to cover here today. So maps is what happens after you have killed Kitava, you take the big resist penalty, and you still want to make sure that you are resist capped. And that's very important. Then you end up in, well, Oriath, which I don't have at the moment because the epilogue, but normally end up in Oriath, and you have to do like some side quests to fix the map device. Once you've done that, Kirak will give you a map, and you hopefully by then should have like 3 or 4 other maps that you start finding. I think the earliest you can find them in Act 7. I think I've only ever found one map in Act 7. But they quite frequently start dropping from Act 8, 9, and 10. So you should have like 5 or 6 by then. Now, I'm not 100% sure if the Atlas is getting any changes at all in Harvest. I don't think they've talked about that. So I'm going to just go ahead and assume that there's very few or no changes happening to the Atlas in Harvest, at least not major ones. So, but either way, I'm going to try to be more about generic tips and not specifically for this Atlas. So at the moment you're starting and like everything would be loads of tier 1 maps. So it would look more like this in a sec. It would look more like this and it would be unexplored. So like beach is one of the first maps you can start with. I wonder if there's like a fast way to recover all of them without taking them all out one by one. But anyway, everything starts with like the level 1 maps. That's the 4 that you're escaping from the Atlas now. It used to be that we started out here and it's changed a bit. But actually, fuck it. Let's keep everything here. Oh, control clay works. Excellent. Actually, I don't have to take all them out. Thanks. I'm still gonna like just keep it like this just to have 2 examples of low zones. So yeah, here we have Wharf and Beach. That's 2 of the starter maps, and then another one is Jungle Valley, another is Pier, and these are all tier 1 maps. So you start doing those, and you'll very quickly start finding tier 2 maps. And just a quick rule of like how map drops work. The only thing, for the most part, that you can get a +2 map for. So for example, if you want to drop a museum boss, that would be off a boss in a tier 1 map. And yeah, like a rare monster or blue monster can't drop a tier 3 map. But that's not like the main important thing that we want to cover here. I want to start giving you guys some tips of what to do and how to use the Atlas at the start of a league. Now, when the league starts and everything is like completely clean, a lot of people, especially on solo self-found, can struggle with a couple of things, namely finding all the maps and completing your Atlas. So at the start, Kirak will sell like very, very limited maps. He'll sell like a bunch of tier 1 maps, and I don't think he refreshes at all. And the pool of maps that you can buy only starts refreshing once you get Zana. I don't remember what the exact rule for Zana spawning is, but it might be like, is there a corner map or your first tier 3 map or something like that? I'm pretty sure there is a hard rule for when exactly she spawns. Same for like your Conquerors and stuff, which we'll go over in a second. It is the first tier 3. Excellent. So the first time you do a tier 3 map, Zana is going to spawn, and it is pretty great to rush that and get her early. The reason for that is you want to start building up your Zana dailies as early as possible, because this is one of your biggest tools in completing the Atlas and expanding that. So as a quick example, say I buy Mudgeister, right? You hold Alt down. I don't know if you need the advanced thing on to see that advanced mod description. I'm not sure if you need that. You should have that on anyway. But this will like show you like, oh my god, have I done everything on this map? Like here we don't have the awakening bonus. So that can be important to check. But let's say we see that and boom. We want to get more completion. So we've looked through everything, right? And everything here are maps we have. Now, a lot of people are going to be wondering, how do I reset the maps that Sana is offering me? And part of the fact that we can and have full power over resetting this is why it's very important to, in the start, especially in SSF, use a very minimal amount of chance orbs and also save some alchemy orbs for this. Because this is going to eat through your chance orbs early on. So you get one Zana daily every day at around midnight or 1 a.m. my time. And then you get one randomly whenever you kill a boss in a map. Now, so how to reset this is just to activate the daily. So if I open this now, I have a whole new set of maps. And you can just like throw any map. And it's when you open it, you don't have to do anything. When you open it, it'll reset. And yeah, this is a great way to expand your atlas. And then you're like, oh, cool. I really needed, well, I mean, once you start getting like a very high progression, she will start selling unique maps. And she will also start selling, as we see here, the Purifier. Yeah, every time you do the daily, this resets. So that's how like very, very quickly we can expand our atlas just poof. I quite like staying fairly low tier for most things and completing as much as possible very quickly. Well, you can complete the map still. It's just, I just wanted to make sure that people understand you don't need to complete the map. As soon as you open the daily, this resets the Zana quest. And to get more, just mapping is the best way. And we'll talk a little bit about more dailies and stuff too. What is the daily? You mean one Zana mission? Yes. That is what I'm showing off. That is correct. So I like completing as much as possible and just getting out here. Now, obviously, these here in the side, there aren't that many low maps. Like, it's tier 5, and there are only 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 maps here, plus the uniques. But here in the middle, the meaty bit here, you can complete quite a lot of maps, and you can do all of these while white. And then once you do, I think it's the first map you do in every outer region, first you're going to spawn Kirak. Sorry, not Kirak. Kirak's brother, Baran. So the Crusader is the first thing that spawns. And then after that, each region is going to have a Conqueror. Only the outer regions. So first you have to kill one in each of the outer regions. So that's Haywark Hamlet, Lexajoris, Lir Arthane, and New Vestir. Right? Once you've killed one Conqueror in each one, then they will spawn in the inner circle. And for each Conqueror you kill, you get a Watchstone. Step 2, Rip to Baron Influence. Yeah, they can be very dangerous, but at least the first ones that are spawning, they do have very little HP, so you can kill them fairly quickly. Now, once you have one of the Watchstones, you can start getting higher maps. So there's a couple of things you can do. Let's say we've like completed the majority of the maps or even all the maps in Turn's End, then you don't need to have them all completed, but it does help a little bit. Then I can put in here and the ones that I already have completed. So for example, Laboratory, right? We completed that as a tier 2, but it's now a tier 6. Now we still have the completion bonus for that, but it can now drop from a tier 5. Because it's already completed, we don't necessarily need them to be next to each other. So when you're first starting out exploring, if let's just say that nothing is completed on the atlas. If I'm doing a tropical island, or let's see, what's a better example that is actually tier 4? So if I'm doing, is there a tier 4 here? Okay, let's just say that Waterways is tier 4. If I was doing a tier 4 Waterways, a Basilica couldn't drop. Unless it's completed, because it's not next to each other, right? So there are some rules for what can and cannot drop. And that's why it can be quite advantageous to completing a lot of it early on while they are still like the low level maps. Because that means that when I am doing tier 5 now, that means that all the ones that are tier 6 and completed can drop even though you're not adjacent to them. And that part can be a little bit complicated. I hope the way I explained it does make sense. So non-linked maps can only drop if they've been completed once before. Correct. But however, for example, if I am doing, say I don't have Plaza, I can drop that in a Basilica. You can see the connection between the maps here. But that's like one of the nice reasons about like completing quite a lot before starting using Watchstones. It'll help a little bit. But then it's also important to know, I want to be a little bit more idiosyncratic or whatever the right word is for that. And even though it might seem simple to most people, like if you, for example, did this, say you kill Baran and Veritania, you have 2 watchstones and you pop both of them in here. This has happened quite a lot. That people are like, sis, can you look at my atlas? I'm not getting any higher maps. Why am I not? And people will be clearing like, I don't know, tier 5 maps, or they'll be clearing like a tier 3 museum, and they're wondering why they aren't getting any maps. And that's because if I want to get a tier 9 curse crypt, I have to be doing at least a tier 8 map. It is completed, so it could be a tier 8 map from here, could be a tier 8 map from here, but a tier 3 map, no matter what you do, is not going to drop a tier 9 curse crypt. So that is important. So having like your map pool like grow as like a staircase can be fairly important there. The map tab is like almost like mandatory now because it makes everything a lot easier. But another pool for growing your map pool and finding maps. This is a little bit of a more unknown thing that people don't know, but I think it's important to cover. So for an example, let's see that I want, let's say that I want Temple is a great example. Now, Tropical item tier 5, Temple is tier 6. Now, they've changed the way 3-to-1ing works. Let's see if I have Tropicals. I don't. I wonder what I have. Bone Crypt? Bone Crypt I can use as a great example. Bone Crypt. And Don the Crown, thank you so much for the raid. Appreciate that. Let's see. Where is Bone Crypt currently? So we can give a good example of that. Here. Okay, so I'm going to show a little bit on how this works. So, this is Bone Crypt currently. Bone Crypt is tier 4. Now, this isn't connected to Caldera. However, I should be able to the best of my knowledge, get a Caldera anyway. Now, how does this work? The map isn't connected together. Right? It's not connected together. It's only in the same region. But I wanted a Caldera because I haven't completed that and I don't have anything next to it. So I wasn't able to farm it by being adjacent. So how does this work and what is the system behind it? Well, let's go over it a little bit. So 3-to-1ing, it sort of like combines, and these are the same 3 maps, but now selling a canyon. So to a lot of new players, this is going to be like, what? We just saw it sell for a Caldera, now it's selling for a canyon? What sorcery is this? And that's not adjacent either. So how does this work and how do we manipulate it? So these 3, right? These exact 3, no matter what I do, I can roll them, whatever. These are always going to sell for a canyon. However, if I switch one of them out, think of it as every item in Path of Exile has a separate item ID, right? We don't see this item ID, but this might be Bone Crypt number 1.3,762, and this might be Bone Crypt number 1.5,888, right? And every one, I don't know how it's determined. We don't know the particular, metadata. We don't know the metadata behind it, but when you have multiple of this, you can start playing around with, well, what maps do these sell for? And the way it works is Bone Crypt is going to sell for any tier 5 in this region. So currently that is just Caldera, Reef, and Canyon, right? So once I have this amount of Bone Crypts, I can easily guarantee Canyon, Reef, and Caldera just by playing around with the different combinations. So these 3 sell for Canyon. Boom, Canyon, check. These 3 also sell for Canyon. Well, then I've removed the last map and I try a different one. Now they sell for Reef. So it's still the first 2 maps, but I tried a different one. I don't know how much more clear other than show it more that I can do. Because I know that this can be a little bit complicated, but this is a super fucking useful tip. And I really want to make sure that everybody understands this. And then let's get the last one as well. So currently we have Reef and Canyon. Well, that didn't work. 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 We're being a bit unlucky here. Caldera. Boom. That's the last one. So now we got all the 3 possible tier 5s from the vendor just by 3-to-1ing. So what are the rules, right? Any map in a region you can sell for 3-to-1 and it'll appear 1 tier above in the same region. Does not have to be connected. It'll just go 1 tier above. 3 excavations can then sell for either shore, lava chamber, yeah, that's it. You can sell for shore or lava chamber. And then you just play around with different combinations. So if you have 3 maps, there's not much you can do. That's just going to sell for whatever it's selling for. If you got 4 maps, then you have a lot more room to play with. 5 maps, you can pretty much guarantee everything. No, you do not have to have them done already. This will sell for anything. This is now I'm explaining how to grow your atlas in the first place. And this is part of like the tips that part of the reason why like I'll have a lot of people go like, you just started mapping 4 hours ago. How are you at 80 completion, right? And this is one of the tips we use. No, it does not work with Val Temple. If you sell 3 shores, those will go to the next stage of maps. Well, let's see with plazas, because that's tier 8. I actually can't remember the rule. Do I have a tier 8 plaza? I don't. Does beach work? There's no... What happens when I sell 3 tier 9 beaches? 8 beaches. Flooded mine. And is there normally a flooded mine here? Tier 9? Where is flooded mine? Is it down here? A little unsure now. No, maybe that does need 3. Maybe that's it. It does just, it stays in the same region, but needs 3. Oh no, it actually moves. No, I'm just an idiot. It stays in the same region and just moves up to the next one. Just moves up to... Oh no, because beach tier... Oh, that's a terrible example. I want to try to find a better example for you guys. What is something that's... It's hard for me to have enough maps of everything. What is a tier 8? Is there any tier 8s that follow this rule? This is dumb. Thanks, Shrew. I just want to get better examples for people. Let's see if I have temples. I do. I have 4 temples. There. So temple goes to waterways. So it stays... Oh, God, I didn't know there was one in this region. Okay, but I can still 3-to-1 that and hope I have more waterways. What are the actual rules? Okay, maybe I can get 1 more. Have a museum, because they'll all go to waterways at the moment. I should have 1 more. Right? Museum, laboratory. I really have none. What about primordial pool? Oh my god, I'm so unlucky. I perfectly have 2 of everything. Okay, but I should have enough tropicals. There's way too much. Oh my god, I actually don't. Way too much work. What else do I have that is the max of a region? I think it should just stay in the same one, but I want to make sure so I don't give out wrong information. This isn't particularly important. Where's the arachnid nest now? Let's see. Arachnid nest is in Aeoris. Oops. Do I have a tier 5 Chateau? Do I have those? Oh, I do. And Chateau is in Haywark Hamlet. And that is a tier 1 map. Yeah, Chateau is a great example. So Chateau stays in Haywark Hamlet. So it just goes to the next. It stays in the same zone. It doesn't jump zones, but it just goes as if you had 1 watchstone, even if you don't. New map system, too complicated, dumb it down. No, it's actually not too bad. Like, it's a lot easier now. It's been getting progressively better. But yeah, so it just stays in the same zone. But anyway, at the end of the day, that is a great way to fill out your atlas sections. Definitely a great way to fill out your atlas sections. Maybe there's going to be an atlas shuffle next league. Well, that doesn't really matter because all of these are base tips. And they're not going to change any of like the core ones. Sale 3 15s at the moment. Can't remember what happened. Oh, you just get a 16 in that area. Yeah, you just get one of these in that same area. So it's the same. It still follows the same rules. So hopefully the majority of that made sense, except for obviously the trying to figure out stuff might not have. But so that is a very important rule for fulfilling the atlas. I can't remember what happens when you sell 3 tier 16s right now. Nothing. There was a while where you got tier 17s. That was fun. I had a tier 19 map. It's stuck in a map tab. And then let's talk a little bit about bonuses. So for white maps, this is very, very easy, right? For blue maps, you just need to kill the boss in the map while the map is blue. Sorry, for white maps. So like all the normal ones, tier 1 to 5. And what does the bonus do? It doesn't make that the map is droppable. If you want a map to be droppable, even if it's a tier 15, 14, 16, all you have to do is kill the boss in that map. It can be white. Like I could do, like say I'm unlocking Desert Springs for the first time, that map can be white and that is now droppable from any other like tier 14, 15. Right? So that's important to know because some people think that you have to do the bonus to have the map droppable, whereas that is not the case. All the bonus does, which is detailed here, and there's like different bonuses. This is the Awakening bonus, and then here you have the map bonus. So there's like different bonuses. I'll cover Awakening bonus last actually. So the map bonus is here. Once you have 100%, it guarantees that the map will drop as 1 level higher. Well, what does that mean? And this is something that can be a little bit hard to understand. And right now, since I have 148, it's guaranteed that it drops 1 level higher, and it's 48% chance to be 2 tiers higher. Now, I touched on it a little bit earlier, but remember that a normal monster in a map can never drop a higher map. So if I'm in a tier 15, a normal monster or a white monster can only drop a tier 15 map. It can, under no circumstance, drop a tier 16. A blue or rare monster can drop a +1. So if I'm in a tier 15 that is either adjacent to a tier 16 or I've unlocked a tier 16, that can drop a +1, right? And the boss could drop a +2. So if I'm in a tier 14, a boss can drop a tier 16. That's like the baseline for what can drop where. Now, if I'm in a tier 15 and I'm killing a normal monster with 154 bonus, and a tier 15 map drops from that monster, that can still not be tier 16, right? Some people think like, oh my god, I'm getting so much more maps or I'm getting higher maps, and it is still a good bonus, but the way it works is, and when it's beneficial, is, again, this is things we can't see, and it's just how the game works. Some from talking to GGG members, some from being confirmed about posts on Reddit and stuff. Rares used to drop +2. Used to. 4 years ago or 5 years ago, Rares dropped +2. The way items work is first it's going to see like, is it an item? Yes. Is it a map? Yes. Is it tier 13? Yes. So if we're in a tier 15 map and that map was supposed to drop a tier 13, even if it's a normal monster, now we have the chance that behind the scenes, that map is being upgraded to tier 14 or 15, right? So that's the benefit of it. It still doesn't like force that a normal monster can drop a +1. Yeah, rares and magic are both +1. But it will like, your pool on average will be higher. So the bonus is quite nice, but it doesn't give you more maps, right? If you're dropping 100 maps with bonus level 0, you're still dropping 100 maps with the max bonus. It doesn't increase your drop rate. And then here you have the Awakening bonus, which is really, really strong as well. It increases your chance to get a Atlas mission, and it's also increasing the effect of modifiers on non-unique maps. Each 6 Awakening bonus objectives you complete, so you need to do 6 to get 1%. And whenever you have the these don't need to be in they used to have to be full for 1 Awakening level. Even if I remove it down here, Awakening level is still 6. So it's for every 4 Watchstones or in your Atlas, you can see that your Awakening level goes up 1. And there's a lot of changes. You can read them just by hovering over. There's also a chance to drop cross-league uniques. That means that once you have Awakening level, especially at level 8, you have a chance that Headhunter can drop from every single map you kill. It'll drop identified, so you'll it's very, very easy to notice what item you're getting, but it's a nice benefit of just cool stuff being able to drop from bosses. So you can drop like a barracks, respite, like anything from like leagues that you normally can't drop from playing the normal game. Like a headhunter can't regularly drop when playing the game. So that's pretty cool. So both the awakening level and the bonus levels are worth to go for. And then for the tier 6 to 11, no, tier 6 to 10 maps, you just have to do an alked map. And for the 11 to 16, they have to be corrupted and rare. So that's a little bit about how the bonus works. We've talked about how to unlock things. To place Atlas jewels in the meaning. I covered that a little bit already, but like I said, progressively like a staircase. If you have two, don't have both of those two in the same one. You want to go like one here, start making sure you have like up to tier 8 maps, and then maybe go 2, make sure you have up to tier 12 or 13 maps. Progressively or progressively build your, like a staircase. Don't go like whoosh, straight up. And then the next thing we'll cover is, hey Delica, what's up? The next thing we'll cover, Conquerors and stuff like that. They're very, very, I'd say they're fairly straightforward now with the new system. It becomes pretty easy to see because you see here that you're spawning them. And then, like, for example, if I open a map now here in Valdo's Rest, which is this one, then the next time I open this now, it's going to have Warlord monsters. That means there's going to be more monsters. They're fairly dangerous, some of them. And they can also drop Warlord influence items. And actually chests in the zone as well can. So that's pretty great. And then once we get to the last one, which is just continuing to do maps in the zone, then we are getting the actual Warlord fight, or rather preparing for the Warlord fight. One more batch, the last one here of like monsters, and then Kirak will be like, hey, we got the portal ready. Zano will be like, hey, click my portal, and then you go kill the boss. Right? That's how that works. And you gotta work on filling up your atlas towards you until you have all the 32 watchstones, putting it awakening at level 8, and then you've sort of completed the atlas. Let's see. So that's one thing you can do. Once you have, is it 20 watchstones now for awakener? I think it's 20, right? I think once you have 16, it changes slightly, and then you have to do your last 4. And basically, once you've finished your, like at 16, the awakener cycle starts at 16. So then when you've killed these, the 4 exiles after 16, so 17, 18, 19, 20, awakener will spawn. So by the time you open awakener, you will have access to awakener level 5. And you can then do an awakener level 5. Now, you can spawn awakener at a lower level. You can, and I can't think of any disadvantage to doing this, because as far as I know, the only time it's worth doing anything else is awakener level 8. Well, I guess it's slightly higher item level or whatever. On like the random items that drop. But then you can do Sirius. And this isn't a guide for killing Sirius or anything like that. But yeah. At level 8 is the only time he can drop Savior. Well, I mean, you can control click them to remove them. Like that. So that could be worth it if you're like unfamiliar with the fight. It could be okay to take out the watchstones, spawn Sirius, and then go in and kill him at a lower level. Especially if you're from New Zealand, that can help a lot too. Quinn jokes. Sorry, I had to slip fun in there. Let's see. So yeah, now it is pretty straightforward now on the Atlas. One thing I want to mention with the Conquerors is, like for example, right now, right? Say that I hadn't completed my Atlas. And it's important to hover over these to see which one you have obtained and which one you have not obtained. That is very important, and a lot of people get stuck on this step because sometimes maybe it'll say here, right? Maybe it'll say obtained on everyone except Redeemer. And let's say that my the blue one here would say unobtained, and I'm like, okay, well I want to do Redeemer right now. I want to finish this, but it's not spawning, and this happens quite a lot. And people are like, Zizaran, why is it not spawning? Well, that's because you're now in the cycle stage where it actually cares of doing them in sets. So once you've gotten to 16. and more importantly past 20, they'll start doing them in sets now. Since Redeemer's already defeated, the only one that can spawn now is Warlord and Crusader. So maybe I have a Warlord unobtained here and a Crusader unobtained here. And that's very, very important because a lot of people come to me asking questions for this because they get stuck there. So remember that once you get to 16, they are in cycles. Until then, it doesn't really matter how many you do. Still not a bad habit to like do them in cycles early. That's like the main things for like Conqueror influence. Do remember that they drop really, really cool base type items and also some special uniques. For uniques and stuff, some good ways to get uniques to fill out on your atlas is Bestiary. You get the big Fire Taurus here will drop you a unique map. There's divination cards for unique maps. And trading and sharing with friends or other players in trade chat and stuff can also be great. In SSF, you're fucked and you're on your own. Yeah. Can you explain whether we can use lore maps to progress the later Conquerors? Not anymore. They changed that. You have to use... but that's a good thing to mention. So for example now, right? All of mine require level 4 to spawn now. That means that 4 watchstones need to be in. And we need to, what do you call it? We need to do the appropriate tier map now. So like Precinct tier 15. To spawn that. Didn't they change something this league too? Like this is something that's been changing every league since it came out. I'm trying to remember, do we currently have a way to do lower level Conquerors? Was that something I can't remember now? I don't think we do. I think we have to do the highest level Conqueror available. We do, right? We have to always do the highest level Conqueror available still. Yeah, only Series can be lower level. Which is a bit annoying, to be honest. It is, in my opinion, not great design. Because if you... this is mostly a hardcore problem, but something that can happen is... you can have like a level 97 characters, really good boss killer, but then you die, right? And maybe you're strong enough to do like a tier 1 or a tier 2 Conqueror, right? But you're not strong enough to do the tier 4 Conqueror that you have spawn, or the ones that you can now only spawn. So now, if you've like gotten far enough on your first character, your second character might not be able to farm bases or anything. So that is a little bit problematic with the Conqueror system, in my opinion, but it's mostly a hardcore problem. So it's not a huge deal because there's a very small subset of people that play that. Okay, let's see. We've covered quite a lot here already, but I want to talk a little bit about rolling maps. Now, on softcore, it's not a huge deal if you do crazy repeat maps. It can be a fun experience. Even if you die 6 times, it's not the end of the world. But especially for hardcore and people who do care about living, I want to talk a little bit about rolling your maps. So there are a couple of things that I avoid at all costs. These things are, well, depending on your build, Reflect. Actually, I don't always avoid that. But yeah, Reflect. Depending on your build, just roll over it. If you're an ED build, for example, you can do everything. That's great. There are some things that are very important to avoid. And these, in my opinion, and these are completely subjective. It's up to you. The biggest killer of them all is monsters will fire 2 additional projectiles. I don't think I've ever seen anything kill as much as this. It is basically Reflect for me. Like, I'm just like, no, roll over. It's just not happening. The reason for that is there's quite a lot of monster projectiles and monster abilities that will basically what we call shotgun or AoE overlap. So if something's doing 4,000 damage, it's not just that it's almost guaranteed to hit you with that 4,000 damage. Sometimes it's just doing like 12,000 damage. So it's very dangerous. I almost exclusively rolled over it. The only option would be like maybe I'll keep it on some very low maps if I don't care. Projectile builds don't always have a problem with it, or like heavy block builds. And also if I'm poor as shit on SSF. So this is a little bit loud, the music. So that's one of the things that I will always roll over. Min-max, that basically reduces the player max resistances by X amount. It has been nerfed over the years. It used to be up to like 24 back in the day or something stupid. Maybe even 30, I can't remember. It used to be extremely high in early Path of Exile. I think now the highest is 14 or 16. It's not particularly high, but it used to be very high. Still very dangerous. It's a massive like increase in damage, so I always reroll that on hardcore. And crit. Crit is extremely dangerous as well unless you have crit reduction. Crit reduction is very great, like reduced damage from extra critical strikes. Brass Dome as well, you can completely ignore it. But the reason why crit is so dangerous is spiky damage is very dangerous in Path of Exile, because you're most of the time not going to predict it or expect it, and suddenly you just die. So those are like the three that on most builds, like regardless of what build I'm playing, I avoid those. Now there are some build specific things. Some builds are going to rely very heavy on regen, like a quick example of Righteous Fire. Maybe you have a Righteous Fire build with 5,000 life regen per second. Well, you go into a no regen map, you can't play your build anymore, so you'll have to regen that.
Hello, my cat streamer.
Thank you. I'm not sure how that went through, but thank you. I appreciate that. And then we have what do you call it? I lost my train of thought. I hate Streamlabs. It's terrible. I need to talk to them. They need to improve their shit. Do you level to 100 in maps? Yeah. What was I talking about? My trail of thought. Oh, yes. Build specific thing. Summoner with chain is another thing. If you're a summoner or using golems or anything like that, you really want to either avoid chain or have the Pantheon here with Capture the Hallowed Husk, making you immune to chain. And then there's like obviously Reflect. Fast charges can be quite an annoying one. If I rely a lot on my fast for survival, then fast charges can be very, very dangerous. And just straight up like triple damage mod things, very, very dangerous too. AoE on map as well can be very dangerous. So there are a couple of things to look out for. They're the main ones. Let's see. Let's talk about Scarabs and Sextants, and then we're pretty much done, I think. So Sextants are insanely strong. There's a lot of tips for these. I have a separate video on Sextants that is pretty outdated. It like TLDRs like all the good ones. This is the best one that you can possibly get. It makes that monsters can spawn additionally beyond. And I need to talk about this on a map device as well. But yeah, monsters can spawn beyond. Currently, we do have beyond on the map device, and you can roll beyond on the map, and you can have it here on the Sextant. I like to call this triple beyond, especially with Awakening level 8. You will have an insane amount of monsters spawning. So it's a crazy amount of XP, and it makes everything else worth a lot more. Path of Exile is sort of like what's the thing they use when something goes like this? It's not linear, it's what's the word? Exponential. Path of Exile and mapping is very exponential. So for example, putting one Scarab on or one Sextant on isn't always like that valuable, but it like, exponentially scales everything when you put like for example, like I just said, triple beyond, and you make it everything in the map can drop Shaper stuff. You put on Harbingers, you put on Breach, and then there's like your maps are extremely dense, and just the fact that they can drop Shaper or Elder items, if you put that on, makes that there's so much more value you can get out of your map. And this is why you'll see a lot of people will end up spending a lot of currency on their maps. So some people can spend like 30 to 50 chaos on one map and still be making profit of that. Whereas newer players might be like taking a while to even make 30 to 50 kills. This is also like part of the thing, like having money makes it easier to make more money. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because what Sextants do is that they add more monsters and more packs to the map. So the best thing that you're mainly looking for is, for example, stuff like this, right? Blah blah blah, fast or instant. Area contains 8 additional packs of monsters. And then you have loads of different ones. Area contains 8 additional lightning monsters, 8 additional poison monsters. I'll talk about this one in a second. There's a few other useful ones too. Bosses always drop unique items. Now, this can be a bit of a niche thing for SSF players in particular, but a nice thing to do with this, which I like, especially if hunting for jewels or very unique items. Remember now that you can move, the watchstones, including the sextant. So, say for example, I'm rolling here. Maybe we'll get it. Oh, I don't know if you can get it on the white one. Like, there's different pools. Here's an invasion boss, magic monsters. The packs are like what you're normally looking for. I don't know if I can get unique items on the white one. I think I can, though. Physical monsters is a scary one that you want to avoid doing because they have the bubbles. It's fine as essence drain. Maybe it's... There we go. Unique bosses drop 1 additional items was the example I wanted to give. Now, if there is 3 bosses in a map and you happen to have it twinned, it's particularly great. So then Courtyard is a good example. Courthouse. Any map with the more bosses there are, the better. I think the max is always 3. Excavation. Precinct is a good one. I think it works on Precinct. Then, and City Square. Now, if you have this, each of those bosses are... And Racecourse, yeah. Canyon on S2. Each of these bosses are going to drop unique. If you have twinned, so like say you were rolling a map normally, right? You were doing Courthouse and you see you get twinned and your SSF, it can be worth saving that. Because if you have this sextant and you have some saved up maps with double bosses, so there's 6 bosses, that is 6 uniques that are just gonna drop like that. So again, like not necessarily something you care about on Trade League Hardcore or Trade League Softcore, but on SSF when you are struggling for maybe jewels, maybe like particularly common uniques that are just a pain in the ass to get because, you know, sometimes just it's random, right? So maybe you need a Parandis Blazing, maybe you need an Eye of Chayula, incredibly common but can be a pain to get. And then yeah, loads of uniques from that. So do remember that you can move them either here, if you, for example, want to like save it for later. So that is pretty useful. Or if you're like not ready to use it. Now, the best thing that you could possibly get, I mean, some people would argue the Beyond one. I would argue this one. Nemesis monsters drop 3 additional currency items. I want to talk heavily about this because it's very important and it's incredible. And really, really drive home the point of the rich get richer. I've done this a couple of times on stream, and nearly every time I do it, people ask me if I'm playing a mod, if I'm cheating, or anything like that. And what happens is that Nemesis monsters will drop 3 additional currency pieces. Now, this could be Chaos Orbs, Exalted Orbs, they can drop mirrors. Actually, maybe not mirrors, because I'm pretty sure I remember them writing that mirror is for some reason not considered a currency item. Maybe they changed that. Anyway, it's old stuff, and it doesn't really matter for the purpose of this. But either way, you will get a shit ton more currency. Or maybe it was just that mirrors isn't affected by player quantity. Maybe that was it. Anyway, so they'll drop a ton more currency. I don't have any samples to give right now. Well, I mean, I could do one. But the main important thing that you want for preparing a map like this, and this requires quite a bit of investment. Ideally, you want a map that has both Beyond and Nemesis on it. So every time I do roll one of these maps on my own, if I see Nemesis and Beyond on the same map, I always keep it. The reason for that is that if you don't have both Nemesis and Beyond on it, like say it only has Nemesis on it, then I don't get to have the double Beyond or triple Beyond like I talked about earlier. If it only has Beyond, then I'm forced to use Nemesis from the map device. It probably will be in Harvest. I would guess it would be in Harvest, because it wasn't here this league, and it means that this league I would have to get at least Nemesis to use it. But let's say that we do have these maps. We have Nemesis and Beyond on it, and then best case scenario, I also have another sextant with Beyond. I have Nemesis, and the other ones could be, for example, lightning damage monsters or poison monsters. Hunted Traders is particularly good. They're just good in general. And what happens then? If somebody has a map on Delirium Hardcore, I will showcase it real quick. I'll go off D&D and I'll give a quick example. So if anyone happen to have one on Delirium Hardcore, I can see if I can roll one. It doesn't matter what tier it is. Lower is sort of better. I'm pretty sure I have a separate tab for it. Oh, do I actually have one? I actually have one, so I can show you one. This is a higher tier as well, so it's rippier. Let's see, where's Courthouse? Courthouse is here. So we'll show that real quick. I probably won't clear all the map because it takes a lot of time, and particularly looting takes a lot of time. Looting can take 20 to 30 minutes. So we have the courthouse. And then I'm not going to be able to min-max my Scarabs. So we'll be able to do slightly better than this. I do have that. Let's say, like, sometimes you need Shaper items, sometimes you need Elder, right? But you want at least either. A Gilded Ambush can be quite good. Gilded Harbinger can be quite good. This is a very, very nice combo to use, right? And a lot of people call this juicing up your map. Right? And this is part of what I talked about. No, Legion isn't that great for this, and it's also particularly rippy. So if you're not low map, sure, but in a high map on hardcore, I wouldn't necessarily do it. Legion's just okay. Although the new Legion Scarab that's coming in looks extremely good for this. But still, like, that's not that important. Alva's mandatory. Anyway. So we have these 4, and this also, I haven't covered this at all, and it's a good thing that I now remember. You can upgrade your map device to have 5 slots. And you do this with the Legion emblems. So you'll encounter Legion monsters while playing the game. And once you have 4, so 100, 100, 100, 100, we could do these 4 here. And once you've completed a 4-way, you will get a 5-slot map device. Somebody in chat did say that you need to do a 5-way, but how would anyone unlock a 5-way if you had to do a 5-way to unlock the 5-way? So that clearly doesn't work, does it? So once you've done 4 Legion emblems, which is around level 80, I think, then you will unlock this map device. I missed that 5 instead of 4. It's all good, dude. I saw it and I wanted to comment on it because it was funny. And then that is very important for things like this. So now let's go over and make sure that we've done everything that we should to prep. Prophecies are also very important for this. Let's see. So this is for indoor chambers. Courthouse is not indoor, is it? Is courthouse indoor? Courthouse. Trying to remember. I don't know. It's sort of both. It's like half. I'm not sure. It's both. It's kind of annoying. I'm not sure which one that counts as. See if I have a frog. Okay, well now we have one of each. We have outdoor location and indoor chambers. So and this is a really, really nice one to pop here. So we have Gilded Breach, Polished Shaper, Polished Ambush. This is a little bit more advanced than I planned on going, but it's worth showing, and I've never made a video on this before. Now, is there anything I've forgotten? And then we're going to do Alva. Alva is extremely important. I end up saving nearly all of my red Alvas for this. That's why that's the lowest, because that's what I use the most. Delirium Orb isn't bad. Quality is 100% worth it. And yeah, Delirium Orb isn't bad. In a tier 15, that can be fairly rippy. What the fuck is this? This is going to be an experience for those who haven't seen it before. And now we're going to put Beyond on it. So remember, the only thing that matters on the map itself, this has a Nemesis on it, and this is Beyond on it. The Nemesis is needed because of that sextant that has Nemesis monsters drop 3 additional currency systems. And this is like sort of the close to max combo you can do. We have the prophecy and stuff like that. Imagine this ripping. No, it doesn't matter. The league's over. I don't care. No Strongbox prophecy. Sometimes good. So the indoor one proc. So it does count as an indoor map. Hey, Prevailing, what's up? Right. So I'm not going to bother looting this map. I think the most pure currency I've ever dropped in one is like 6 or 7. Let's see. Let's remove that. Also, I need a stricter filter for this. I think that one might be strict enough. 6 or 7 pure exalts is the most I've had in one map. So, I've also fucked up a little bit because this is only awakening level 8. Level 6, and you can do awakening level 8. So that was the only thing that I fucked up. So this will actually be a little bit stronger. So this is a quick example of what I mean with, like, some people will invest quite a lot into their currency, into their map, whereas, like, for example, for a new player, it might even be like scary to begin with to even think about getting 30 to 50 chaos, right? Whereas I just used like 60 or 70 chaos, or maybe even 40 on this map. And you know, here we are. This is extremely good on softcore. It's kind of worse on hardcore because you do very often get pure exalts from this, and they're obviously worth more on softcore. On hardcore, exalts are around anything from 30 to 70 chaos. And while you don't necessarily always get exalts from this, getting between 1 and 6 exalts per map you do like this is fairly common, I'd say. There are probably people in chat that do this quite a lot more than me and would probably agree that you do get exalts very, very commonly. Oh, this is on Vulcan too, so it's a little bit intensive on your computer. And this is now also with Delirium on. As you can see, a lot of bases are dropping. And when you're juicing maps this much, Ooh, I almost died. No, wait. Oh, I'm not CI. I don't know why. I thought I was CI for a sec. I haven't played this character in a long time. Saw my energy shield disappear and was a bit worried. But, and I'm not going to bother looting this. Like I said, I wasn't joking when looting takes around 20 to 30 minutes. Well, we haven't done an incursion yet. Incursions are kind of the most fun part. But I wanted to show this as to why I keep those maps and some like cooler things you can do when you like experiment a little bit more with sextants. So these are only from red sextants. It's not something you can get early on from the normal ones. Only from the awakened sextants. We talked about the need for a good filter, and I think this like sort of demonstrates it. So again, and we would get quite a lot more currency if I had awakening level 8. So I've actually fucked up that a little bit. So yeah, quite a lot more currency would be dropping, or should be dropping. I just tasted it a little bit too much. There, so I think we've killed most things in here. It's mostly the rarest you want to kill. So now you'll see like a nice currency rain when we pop out here, which is like really, really fun. Doesn't really matter what drops. Obviously is like fairly dangerous. I've died once to doing this on hardcore. I'm sure you can see why. Laggy, kind of rippy. I will normally try to like buy up these maps. They're like the most important thing, in my opinion. They can be very expensive to buy, but try to like try to save them when you roll them, because a lot of people roll these and just roll over them. That's what happened the most. The only reason they're expensive is there are very few people that actually do actually try to roll these. Will you ever make a video on this? That is what I'm doing right now. This is part of a video. I've usually been very lazy with making a video about this. Let's see. This is the last one here. Yeah, you definitely want to have a strict filter. So mine actually barely shows anything, and it's still... well, that's not true. I show more currency than you would on like a software trade league. You could filter out a lot of the currencies. But for SSF, most of these currencies are quite nice. Like, obviously, you're gonna still need like transmutes and stuff for portal scrolls, which you'll need a lot of. But for trade league, my filter isn't strict enough. Because I would be picking up like every ult, every transmute. You might not even pick up alchemies on trade league. But yeah. Okay. Right. I actually think that was my connection. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave the currency in the map, and I ended the delirium a bit early there because I didn't actually want my level 100 character to die. Don't care too much if it does, but you know, I'd rather it didn't. It is actually a fairly tanky character because this is max block too. But yeah, so hopefully try sound off for the video. That's fine. I mean, this is the video. Doesn't really matter if it's lagging and stuff. So that's like a quick example of the true power of sextants. But even during the normal ones, like additional monsters and stuff, will like be huge, both for experience gain and currency gain. Just remember in Path of Exile that like the less you do, the less it is worth. Because if you do, like I said, it's I used the word earlier, I forgot it again. It's not a linear scale, right? The more you, and also, the more people you have with you, it's even more. This is why you'll see, for example, exponential. This is why you'll see, for example, Empyrean, and that's the final exponential thing. We'll do groups of 6, and that's how you can make like 5 mirrors a week. Because you could be doing that. You're sharing the cost between 6 people, and you got to remember that each person that's in a map is granting 50% quantity and farming things like divination cards, and stuff like that. So I think the people that make the most money off it on hardcore are farming the Combs Heart divination card doing this. So there was one person with a headhunter and full magic find gear, 4 people doing nothing, just following them around and being rich, and 1 person doing an aura bot support, maybe sometimes a curse bot too. And then you could get 1 Combs Heart per map you're doing with that setup if you're lucky. What are Combs Heart prices in hardcore usually like? 200 to 300 C. I make that much in a week, and he made that much in 1 map. Fuck my life. Now, this is also the reason I actually bothered bringing this up. Is because in Harvest, they have added something that lets us do Sextants do not expand a charge, which means that you could technically infinitely do Nemesis. We don't know how hard that is going to be, but if anyone saw me during the reaction video when they said that like Sextants do not consume a charge, I was like, oh no. Now, I actually think this is a really bad thing. SSF is not something you're going to be able to do a lot anyway. However, when there's something like that, it's going to feel kind of wasted in a way, right? You're going to feel like you're wasting it when you're not doing it, which is, in my opinion, a little bit frustrating. Like, it makes other things feel worse. It's not consume 1 or 3 charges or something, so you have to like keep finding it and stuff. I usually don't use Sextants until at least yellow maps. I barely ever use them in yellow maps and red maps. It's usually when farming divination cards, especially in SSF, or when pushing XP and when I get to red maps. Definitely the main reason would be divination cards if I'm going to use them early. And this is a nice mapping tip. Like, Residence is a great tip for farming divination cards early. It's also the only time I would ever consider not doing maps. It is more complicated, but there is like Carvarusco has a great video explaining this. It's super 5-head, very complicated, but you can set your atlas up in a certain way. Still, that Residence is the only thing that drops. Now, they have removed your ability to remove maps from the atlas. I think that was 3 or 6 months ago they did that. They're like, oh, you don't need to anymore. That's not true. It's still a benefit. It's still like you can still make a more optimized atlas while not completing everything than you ever can by completing everything. It's just now they've evened the playing field so much that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I'm very happy with completing the majority of the atlas. The only exception is sometimes at the start of a league, I will like play around with Residence as the only one. And that is quite nice because the favored map system comes in kind of late, whereas you can already do that just by not completing maps. So this is a step in the right direction, but the first and second slots should unlock way earlier for it to actually compete with just smart systems. It would be my main feedback there. I think that's the main things that I want to cover for maps and tips and tricks. Remember, like the most important one I showed there, I would say would be how to reset your Zana dailies and the 3-to-1. I should probably talk a little bit, kind of embarrassing that I haven't brought this up before, chisels and when to alch maps, when do I transmute maps, stuff like that. We should talk about that a little bit. I, on Trade League, will almost exclusively, almost always alch as long as you can do the map safely. So in the start day 1, like 4 hours after launch, and you get in maps early, if you're a speed racer, you're going to be like fairly low on gear. You might not be able to alch maps, right? You might be doing blue maps, being a little scared. You have 4k life, 3k life, and you're like, ugh. But if you can clear the map, especially in Trade League, you will always get the value of an alchemy or more back from alchemy. You might not always sustain alchemies on your own, but since you're in trade league, you can buy that off other people. So 100%, if you can, always alch your maps in trade league, even on the white ones. You always, like, you have a better chance for high value drops. Way better. Way better. Obviously, if it's dangerous to you, then you have to be careful. Or if you're a build early on where there's a lot of re-rolling going on, then that's a downside. Chisels, I usually start using them around, again, for divination cards, or like tier 11s or tier 13s plus. I generally feel like map sustain is incredibly easy right now, and you don't need to use it before then. Same with like sextants and chisels, generally at 13s plus, 13 plus ideally. That's when it starts getting harder to sustain maps. Still very easy right now, and tier 16s are in a spot where you can quite easily sustain just running tier 16s, even on SSF, fairly quickly. But if you're playing on SSF, I'll at least tier 1 to 6, mostly blue maps, until my character gets like pretty beefy. Well, ED is never going to be doing 50 physical damage, but yeah, you can still do Fist Reflect with that little. Right. I think that covers most of it without making the video too long that I can think of. Do remember that like Scarabs, like I showed, are incredibly strong. There's a lot of useful ones. And I have videos detailing different ones, like why Bestiary is strong, why Incursion's strong. Incursion's not a Scarab, but a lot of it just depends on what you need. That is the main things I want to cover. One last thing. This is such a useful League Start tip. I can't not say it. So if I put in a sack fragment like this, or like this, that is going to give 5% quantity. Now this is really useful in tier 16s and SSF for getting a little bit more extra quantity, and maybe you don't have Scarabs to run, right? So this would now be a 10% quantity map. Well, 18, right? Even without anything on it. So that just adds 10%. However, this does nothing. You can't do 2. However, if I put 1 in, this spawns a Vaal side area. Oh, right. Spell snare. Yeah, that's fine. This spawns a Vaal side area. Well, what is the significance of this? First of all, I think these can spawn and reflect still. I'm not 100% sure. I would check anyway. But yeah, now I have a Vaal side area. It's only level 69. So why do I care? It's only level 69 area. I'm in 69 maps very, very quickly. Well, first of all, farming vanity cards aren't like too bad. That's not a bad idea. And then over here, this little fella has a huge chance of dropping a 6th link. Actually, everything in here, and you can see here, where is it? Found items have an 8% chance to drop corrupted in area. That means that killing anything in here has a chance to drop 6 things, and everything from the test has a chance to drop 6 things. That's just because one of the outcomes from voling an item is that everything on the item changes. Like, you can't do this on a Shavs and hope that it's 6 things. Well, like, it would be rare and broken. Everything changes, but it's 6 things. That's like 1 in 160 chance. So if I like keep doing this, and I will do this quite a lot on League Start, especially if it's a build that can use a lot of different items, then I will do this until I get a 6-thing test. Hopefully get like 30 to 80 life or something. 30 to 80 life on a 6-thing test. It's like generally easier and faster to get than a tabula. And now probably some people are going to be like, yeah, well, Ziz, what if it's corrupted and it's not the colors I can use? Well, do remember that you can still change the colors of any corrupted items. You can change the colors, links, and sockets of any corrupted items. But now it costs Vaal orbs as well. So let's, for example, 6 sockets as well, you're going to get a lot of, which is great. Yeah, Vaal wins is good too. So for example, right, this one is corrupted, but what if and what if this was 6 linked, right? Maybe I had like 80 life. Well, you know, I really need like, oh, perfect. I needed 2 green, 2 red, 2 blue on my corrupted item. So you can still change the color. This is important to remember, and this gives you a huge boost at the start of the league. That is everything I wanted to cover for this mapping guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it helps a lot of people. There's no special recipe for that. Everyone can do that. If you enjoy my content, consider subscribing and drop by my Twitch, say hi. Hi. And hope you guys are all excited for Harvest. Thanks for watching, and try to die less than I do.